Hello, lovely people. My name's Naomi Light, and I am here to share with you today a conversation that I had with my friend Kim. My conversation with Kim Mason was about the time when she was made redundant and what happened when she suddenly needed to start her own business. I reflect with her about what being a marketer is like and her thoughts and tips for marketing when you've just started out in business. And she shares some of the personal thoughts she has on coping with limiting beliefs and how to change your mindset. So here is my interview with Kim Mason. So, hi Kim.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me here. I have a few questions that I want to fire at you and get your responses to.
Yeah.
So let's dive in. The first question then is, can you tell me how you came to be running All Things New Biz, what the journey was to starting on your own?
Okay. Well, going back about 4.5 years now, I was business development director for a marketing agency in the South Coast. And we'd been doing a certain amount of work, which was a different type of work from that which we'd been doing. So I was bringing in different people to help us. As a result of that, we ended up merging with another company to help us deliver this service. And the people who we merged with, the woman who owned that company was a very similar person to me. So ultimately, we were both overheads on the business development side rather than delivering client services. And as the company came together and became one, it was clear that we couldn't really both be there. And as she was owner of the company, it was me who was going to be going. So I was made redundant, and it was a good redundancy. So it was one of those ones that you do hear otherwise, that effectively was fair and right. There was two people doing the same job and not enough company to support us. So I was made redundant that day, and I remember being, even though it made sense, it was still a shock on the actual day, that old, meeting with HR and your boss in the room, and what have I walked into? Click. And that's a horrible feeling, and I was shocked and very sort of sad and upset and wobbly on the actual day, and it was probably about, 12 o'clock, so middle of the day when they told me. And about an hour or so later, I was still still at work, and I started having these little glimmers in my mind, which was, I could go freelance. I could go self-employed.
Yeah.
No, I'm sad. I'm being made redundant. This is awful. I don't know what I'm going to do. Need a new job. Worry, sad. I could go freelance. And there was this little sparkle that kept sort of, by the end of the day, it was a little sparkle that sort of in your sad day, really just a little shining sparkle that just, I could feel this little excitement sort of going up and down my chest. And basically I acted on that. So instead of going and looking for work, instead of Googling jobs and updating my CV and doing all that, sitting at home and moping or looking for work, I decided to go freelance. And that was that, really.
So it was that kind of energy of excitement that you felt on the day you were made redundant that actually was the germinated and became a business.
Yes, it was. And the first step that I did, I thought, okay, I kind of need to road test this excitement in my head. So I went straight back to the boss who'd just made me redundant and said, right, okay, I think to sweeten this blow, I think you need to give me some access to some career coaching, because I'm considering transitioning, or I'm not quite sure what I want to do right now. So I would like funding for some career coaching, life coaching type of thing. And I'd found a person locally. That's what I'd Googled instead of Googling jobs. I Googled career coaching.
Wow.
And I found somebody locally who seemed a good fit. And I looked at how much 6 sessions was with her and put that number to my boss, and they said, yeah, okay, we'll do that. So I then had something immediate to do that was proactively following my thought about going freelance, setting up my own business. And I think that was really a brilliantly positive step at the time, because it was an action and it was a forward action and not a looking back action.
Yeah.
I didn't have time for CVs then because I was busy talking to this lady.
So in some ways, your very first spend was on a coach.
Yes. Although
Even though it wasn't, it's kind of, you weren't allowed to just spend any money you wanted on anything, but the first thing you did and you invested in was coaching for you.
Yes, it was. And in that I was floating this idea of freelance, but I didn't really know what it looked like, because when you're employed, other people will recognize this. When you're employed, you don't really know how many freelancers are out there. You don't know how many self-employed people are out there. You don't get to meet startups having all these interesting discussions about their business. You don't get to see the world of people who aren't employed in companies, who just have colleagues and bosses and reports and things like that. So it was a little bit of a misty world for me, because I didn't know what it looked like. And working with a coach helped me to imagine that world a bit better and imagine myself in it, and then imagine my lifestyle in relation to that. Because as soon as I was made redundant, I was really conscious that there were a lot of negatives about the way I had been working as an employed person. No specific fault of the company, or that wasn't the most flexible. But the working from home, the flexibility, looking after children, it just, I was running around, commuting. I would spend so long in traffic thinking, I'm paying for childcare, and I'm polluting the environment, and I'm paying for petrol, and I'm not even getting paid yet because I'm not at work. And things like that make you think, what am I
doing? So what would you say were the main takeaways from you at the time from the coaching? What did it achieve for you?
It reinforced something that I think I probably would have done, but not necessarily. And it gave me a little underlying confidence that my decision making behind it was really right and well and good, rather than just doing it for the hell of it because I hate the commute, sort of thing. A little bit knee-jerk. It took away the knee-jerk and allowed me to think it through. And she also did a visualization exercise, which was about my ideal sort of perfect scenario, which involved a fireplace, a dog, this sort of toing and froing of a network of people that I couldn't quite explain, and the family and country, all these different visualizations, but with sort of a style of working at the heart of it. And I realized that fitted so well with setting up my own business and self-employment that just felt right and lovely.
Yeah. So it gave you the confidence to kind of trust yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I needed somebody else to talk to who didn't know me. That was really important. I had a lot of supportive family and friends, but they all have their own viewpoint. Yeah. People who are typically in employment say things like, oh, it's very, it can be quite hard, because that's their perception. And, your own family might be like, oh, but you won't have a salary, how are you going to, this sort of thing. And you need somebody who isn't asking those questions for their reasons. You need somebody who's independent.
Yes. Yeah. Brilliant. So I do know a little bit about, we've talked about your story before, and I wondered if you had any reflections on what were some of the things you did before that point. Obviously you didn't know you were going to start your own business. It was just a leap of faith. But was there anything looking back, leading up to that point, that you thought, actually, that really helped? The fact that I had that way of thinking, or I'd already I already knew that once you were dropped in the deep end, it meant that you could kind of swim rather than sink.
There's a couple of things. In my nature, or over time, I've developed this thing where I say yes to anything, not anything I'm offered, but I mostly say yes and then worry about it afterwards.
Great.
And classic. I was working for a local television station that was sort of in a really difficult period of time. And I was invited to, or rather the television station was invited to speak to the Rotary down at the Southampton Rotary, as it happened. I didn't even know what the Rotary was at that stage. But I just said, yeah, I'll do it. And then, you find yourself sort of 4 weeks later in front of 45 men, I think it was exclusively male, all pretty much retirement age, looking terribly seriously at you and very interested. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I had no idea. But I've been in that situation often enough where I have said yes, and situations are just a little bit quirky that I'm used to doing things on the fly. I'm used to talking on the hoof. I'm used to talking as I think rather than thinking first, which is sometimes a problem. But I remember just afterwards thinking, oh my God, I've just given an interview about the sort of the commercial realities of a television station from my perspective. So I didn't have to pretend any knowledge that I didn't have. It was just my perception and how things were working out for us, and challenges and ups and downs. And I've given this talk, and you know, I got a wonderful round of applause and people coming up saying that was really, really interesting. Thank you so much. I was thinking, oh my God, it was quite a while ago. I was only about 30 then or something, 28. And that was really interesting. So there's lots of times I have actually learned to do that, say yes, and then worry about it afterwards, even if that's going, abseiling or something like that. Just say yes. Yeah. Scary, but who cares? It'll be fine.
Yeah. So the practice of putting yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yes, definitely.
In personal life and in business life meant that when you suddenly were forced out of your comfort zone and made redundant, you kind of, you know, you knew a little bit what to do. You knew how to swim. Yeah,
definitely. And I'm an embracer of new situations, and that is part personality and part being in that situation a lot. So you don't worry about them. You sort of know that they will take care of themselves. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy or anything, but you just deal with what you've got right now. You deal with the right now and the next step. And they've usually worked out as things that I absolutely love and really, really look forward to. What's the opposite of regret? I'm really, really proud of the fact that I've done them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So was that the only thing you said it was a couple of things? Saying yes. Anything else?
There's very much a sort of confidence that I have. I think that might be around the confidence in new situations, so it may be a very similar thing. There's also that feeling whilst I'm not necessarily an extrovert, I very much enjoy the company of other people. And I think although I didn't understand this freelance world, I had this idea that it was definitely out there and that I would really enjoy. So I love one-to-one conversations with new people. So where I'm not an extrovert specifically wanting to, you know, party on with 30 at a time, shouting, bantering, being in it, I love the intimacy of one-to-ones, one-to-twos and small group workshops. And I've done a lot of that in my previous work. And I think I could feel that this world was out there and that I would get a chance to know an awful lot of interesting people. And I have to say, I didn't know that. I think I just felt it. And that has happened more in my own employment. And that happened minimally, but with clients and colleagues. So there's a small group of people that you can do that with. And with self-employment and your own business, that happens on a massive scale. If you want to, you can really know so many interesting people. And I think that enjoyment, that pleasure of getting to know new people and seeing what they do and how they do it. Yes. It stood me in really good stead because I'm deeply nosy, deeply curious.
I love it.
Very useful.
Yeah. And almost making it about getting to know the people and experiencing being with the people. Because I think it can, in those early days of business, it can all be, the focus can be on like, what do I say? How do I sell to these people? Who's going to become a customer? But you were imagining an experience of all these people that will be in my circle and we'll have conversations.
Yes, absolutely. And I was also imagining there was a couple of kind of role models that I had. When I was employed, there was I was in, at this stage, internal communications. And there was a woman that I'd seen on social media, on LinkedIn, and just sort of bubbling up. She had become self-employed. I didn't really register that, but she had. And her name was Rachel Miller. And she called her company name All Things IC, All Things Internal Communications. Now, for people who will see me or whatever, I named my company All Things New Biz. And that was almost a direct reflection of how she'd done that. And what I'd seen in her was an underconfident person who had gone freelance, set herself out there, started doing video before video was a thing. So this was sort of 10 years ago. And she was doing videos saying, I hate video, I'm shaking, my voice is scared, but I'm going to do this anyway because I'm going to try and get together any other internal communications professionals like me. She was creating this little world and this little network. And now that we're discussing it, I am realizing that she had a stronger influence on me, and probably
Yeah.
that little spark came in when I was made redundant, saying you could go freelance. Probably Rachel Miller, of all things internal communications, all things IC, was probably sitting here going, I did it and I was scared.
Yeah.
You can probably do it. You're quite confident. So I think actually she was a real role model on you can do it even if you're petrified. And I'm not petrified. So, wow, I'm lucky.
Yeah. Something I hear, because I help people who want to start their own businesses, maybe leave the corporate world for reasons that you've talked about, and have more time freedom or more financial freedom. I help people to make that transition. And one of the things that I'm often hear people saying is, it's all so overwhelming. There are so many things to do. Where do I start? And so I just wondered, whether, Kim, there was anything that you decided not to do that kind of reduced down your workload starting All Things New Biz to something that was a bit more manageable, because you sort of got things off your plate. I don't know if you had that experience.
Yes, I definitely did. Because I came from a marketing agency background, and I had then been working in business development, so I've been working in sales. And my background had been that from a sales perspective, I had learned the hard way, as in I didn't know what I was doing 15 years ago at all. I had a mentor who I didn't really get on with and didn't feel that their way was right. Then I'd gone through a transition where I'd found my own mentor, and I had learned to do sales on behalf of this marketing agency for my own way. So I had learned to not try and copy other people, not try and do it that way, which I wasn't comfortable with, but to do it my way. And I think, number one, that took off my worry about getting clients. Now, it doesn't take off anybody else's worry about getting clients, but I did then, there were several things I kind of decided not to do on the basis of that confidence or that experience, whatever you call it. And again, having been working with creative agencies, an awful lot of branding, and people think brand, logos, strap lines, my vision, my mission, my messages. I did do a bit of thinking about that, scribbling in notebooks and bits and pieces. But in the end, at the very beginning, I thought, All Things New Biz, thank you, Rachel Miller. All Things New Biz is going to be my name. I grabbed a font from Microsoft Word. I mean, this isn't actually a recommended way to do it, but to start, this can be really good. I grabbed a font, created a logo in sort of bright blue, which is my favorite color, and set that up and went, right, that's what I'm called, that's who I am. And then I looked at things. I thought, sole trader, limited company. That's a big kind of, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? It doesn't really matter at the very beginning. If you're to start up, it doesn't really matter. So I was like, sole trader, it's easier. Bang, job done. Yeah. Spoke to a friend who was an accountant, said, do I need to do anything? She said, not really, no, but do get a business account. So I did that. That was probably the slowest part. Thank you, the bank. So business account, got a name, grabbed a logo, and then most importantly, I didn't worry about any other sort of planning and marketing at that stage. I just started speaking to my contacts. Contacts, previous people I'd worked with, people on LinkedIn who I knew really well, and just saying things like, right, I'm now a freelance sales and marketing consultant.
Yeah.
So that'll do for now. Worrying about the description, worry about that tomorrow. Worry about that when you've got 2 clients. Worry about that when you've sent out an invoice.
Yes.
Well, I'll call myself now and I'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So I put it out on LinkedIn, I emailed friends, I told people, etc., etc. And one person just came back and said, oh, that's a coincidence. We've just been doing X, Y, and Z, and we had a sales exec who's gone, and we want to do things a bit differently now. So I don't want to just hire a sales exec. We want to really think through our sales and marketing. Do you want to just come in and, I don't know, do some days for us? I was like, yep. And also, it's kind of about saying yes to a lot, and you do kiss frogs here.
Yeah.
But kissing them means you learn.
Yes.
You learn a lot. You learn about the frogs you like kissing, and you learn about the frogs you don't. Yes. And you learn a lot about yourself through doing it, not through researching it behind a computer screen, or thinking a lot about it, or writing it in 10 different ways, or this sort of thing. It's sort of take the steps to do, and while you're doing, you're going to be learning. You're going to learn each time you take a step.
Yeah.
So in terms of what I didn't do any official branding. I didn't do much official marketing. I didn't do anything officially, as you said, at the very beginning. I just got in touch with people, what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I can help you.
Yeah, so helpful, Kim. It sounds to me like this kind of theme of confidence is coming through, where you've found confidence in the things that you had done, you know, just like, this is how I want to approach it. This is my very simple logo. And rather than becoming unconfident in all the things that you hadn't yet done, you just focused on, oh, this is good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And also at that stage, I think something that looms large in a lot of people's heads, unless you're technical or perhaps design creative background, is something like a website. People think, oh, I can't do anything till I've got a website. No, that's the wrong way around. Start doing, and then you will know what your website can do for you, and then you can start to create your vision. Then you can start to create more structure. At the very, very beginning, you can't have a website because you don't know enough about you to create one.
Yeah.
Now that obviously different businesses will have different approaches on that, but at the very, we're talking the early days. We're talking the first 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. So helpful. And so what you do now, Kim, is you're a marketing expert, and you go into small, medium companies to consult with them about their marketing.
Yeah.
Well, if you were talking to somebody who is maybe in a startup phase, first 3 months, or considering starting up, what would you, other than, you know, don't do anything official, what would your advice be about how to position yourself and how to market yourself?
This depends hugely on the type of business that the startup is, obviously, because there are many ways to skin a cat. It also depends a lot on your resources. So where some startups might have put their own money in, they may have a little bit of investment. Some may be doing it literally from a zero, you've got a standing start and £500 in the bank and that's it. Some may have venture capital. Now those are 3 very big differences. If we take the one that's got a little bit of money in the bank, perhaps, and the idea, something like that, then I think the beginning of the advice, it's a tricky one there, is to really look at what you don't know and don't get bogged down in tactics to start with just yet. Assuming you've got sort of some conversations going, there's first of all looking around the customer research side. So until you can clearly understand and explain who your customers are, or your clients, really depend. I often use customers for B2C, business to consumer, so where you're selling products to the consumers, versus B2B, business to business, where you're selling products and services to other businesses. You looking at the research, and that research can be in, for example, a venture capital funded organization. That would probably be done by a research agency. It would be structured and scripted and very carefully done for a specific purpose. If you've got your £500 in the bank and you think, right, research, then it's you who's going to be doing it. But out there are a lot of tools. There is LinkedIn, if you're on business to business research. It is amazing how much time people will give sometimes for a genuine request for, you are doing you're running a business a little bit like mine, or you're the type of customer that I'm potentially going to be providing. Would you possibly spend 10 minutes on the telephone with me to answer some questions? This only works if you're honest. You are not selling people at all at this stage. You are asking for someone to help you learn. The other thing is literally to get on the phone and start ringing some of the businesses you think you might be providing it to, or gather together a small group of people, even if they're friends or friends of friends, and say, can I just take you all out for a coffee or for a drink in the pub, whatever it is, and say, I've got these questions. In an ideal world, these should be people you don't know well.
Yeah.
When people do know you well, they are answering from a different perspective.
Sure, they kind of know the answers you want them to say. They know you well. Yeah.
Overly positive or overly negative, and rarely are they as objective as your actual customers might be. So, so getting a really good handle with some quick and dirty customer research and thinking, how can I do quick and dirty research? Sort of put the energy into thinking that, and then the answers start to lead to your next steps.
Yes, which might be more research, but it is maybe a little bit more focused, or
It is. It's amazing what you start to learn, and you know, then there's desk-based research as well, which again doesn't take very long. But just looking at your competitors, who else does what you're doing?
Yeah.
It might feel like you're the only person in the world doing that when you're starting out, but you might find lots. You might find hardly any.
Yeah.
You know, the next stage really is not to just look at you selling to customers, but to look at what we call, you know, the sales channels. And the different sales channels might be that there's you selling direct, but it might be that you're working with other businesses who already work with your customers and you have a complementary service that works together alongside that. It might be that your product is very has a lot of synergy with another product, and that actually selling those together, sort of almost bundling with somebody else, might be an idea and an approach. And there's, you know, there's a million different
Yeah. So tell me, Kim, a little bit about what you do now, and particularly what you're looking for when you meet your clients to kind of represent a healthy approach to marketing, sales, business growth.
I work with business to business clients almost exclusively. That's where my background is. That's where my interest is. That's where I've done sales on the front line. And that's where I've seen what doesn't work and I've seen what does work. And I've really learned to look at and be able to measure how things are working and how they're not. So I think the type of client I start to work best with is when they have a setup. They're usually experts in their own area and they are heads down delivering work to clients. So they're busy, you know, delivering engineering consultancy services here. They're busy doing something else over there. And in the time that they need to keep their heads down servicing the client, they aren't looking up to keep their sales and marketing strategy sort of fresh and moving forward. When people are very, very busy, the money is coming in. They don't have time for the sales and marketing, but that is the only time you can do it because that's when you have your potential to invest. Mm-hmm. If you wait till you suddenly get to a quiet patch and you look up and go, when you
money.
You haven't, your income is starting to then, go a little quieter and you're on a sort of desperate cycle to catch up. It's a lag. You've got to do the work before you need the clients to create a pipeline of clients who are, around, ready to be working with as projects finish or concurrently, however you work.
Yeah, so helpful. And I wonder if you can give a more personal, have you got any personal stories now of anything that you feel like is maybe has been holding you back from selling yourself and marketing yourself, that you have learned from recently?
Yes, definitely do. I was at a sort of an innovation event, which is really aimed at startups and very small businesses where they get sort of access to free workshops to help learn about things like sales or marketing or funding and this sort of thing. And I'd been listening to a talk and I was then talking to the organizer after the event. And it was a really interesting conversation because as we learned a bit about each other and I was asking how this innovation system worked and what the connection with government was and funding and all this. And he was asking me some similar questions to those you've asked. How did you start up? What are you doing? What do you do best, etc. And he started telling me about some of his clients that he personally didn't support because there's not enough of him to go round, but he felt needed some specific business development help of the type that I would be quite a good fit for. And as he explained them to me, I felt myself sort of going, well, I don't know if they're a really good fit for me. I'm quite passionate about being a good fit. And I thought, so I was saying, I don't know if they're a really good fit. I mean, I have done that type of work, but not really in that sector. So you maybe want somebody who's more familiar with the military, which was the connection to the MOD or public sector. And whereas me, I'm slightly more private sector experienced. And I felt myself just pushing back, even though he was saying, so I could get you to give a talk to some of them. And I was like, well, maybe I'm not the right person.
Yeah.
And then this was probably it was only about 3 weeks ago now. And then I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago, and you asked me that question. What was it? You asked me the question, well, why? What's happened in the past that you think makes you think you're not a good fit, when this man, who doesn't really know, was thinking, she sounds quite a good fit. And that really sort of made me go, oh. And I remember thinking, why do I not think I'm a good fit? And that was really hard to answer. And I think we talked a little more, and we came to the conclusion that, or not the conclusion, but we came to the starting point of the conversation, which was that in the past, I've been in businesses where either myself or more my colleagues have been really, really affected by some bad decision making, or poor decision making, or accidentally negative decision making from senior people who've given advice or run the company. And I've seen really negative consequences from that. And I've seen that more than once, probably 1, 2, 3 times in different places and contexts. And I think it's made me, when you see a group of your colleagues being made redundant suddenly, and then you learn about the decisions that have got to that point, you start to think, oh my God, I never want to make decisions like that, have those consequences. Now, those decisions aren't normally malicious. Some of them are poor because they're fast, quickly made. Some of them are poor because there's just a lack of knowledge. And some of them are poor because the situation has entirely changed and nobody could know that. But I think I have never wanted to be the person who potentially says, this is what you want to do. Here's the advice. This is how we can do it. And then learning that has had really bad consequences. Maybe a company has gone bust because of my decision making. Now, it never has, but I've never put myself in that situation. I've always withdrawn and stepped back and said, perhaps I'm not a perfect fit for that.
Yeah.
Then you helped me to really query that and said, is anyone going to be a perfect fit for that? And I thought, no, there isn't anyone who's done this type of business, has this experience in sales and marketing, has these sorts of communication skills and this type of experience. They're just a figment of my imagination. So if that person doesn't exist, then I'm coming to this realization, I am a good person to be able to help them, and potentially the right person to be able to help them. But I can always meet with them, at least progress it to a stage where we both know enough to make an open-eyed decision, rather than me saying, oh, I think you need somebody else, maybe. Military expert in procurement or whatever.
Yes, you need the perfect person.
And there's no such thing. And looking back at some of the work I've done when I've been employed, I have been with clients whose industries I know almost nothing about until I've started researching. I've done my due diligence, I've done my research, I've brought their knowledge out, which is really, really, really important. They know far more about their businesses than I do. And I have helped them to progress by visualizing their knowledge and bringing their knowledge together and helping them decide on priorities and basically facilitating their knowledge so they can make the right business development decisions, with me illuminating the options. And that's a much more facilitating role than purely consultative, where you might be advice. You give advice around their knowledge, but not in place of their knowledge.
But it was actually in that situation, subconsciously, it was the fear of the harm you could potentially do that was kind of bearing in on your judgment, more than the confidence you have in having already done some of the stuff you were potentially being asked to do.
Yes, absolutely. I think but it's very, very subconscious, and I had no idea. And I've been doing it ever since I was self-employed. I've been talking about the importance of fit, but ironically, within that, I have been giving a biased definition of fit, which is based on the fact that if some of my decisions could hurt somebody, I won't even go close to making those. Whereas actually, if I look at whether you are frame the question differently, can you help them move forward? Then that's a yes most of the time. Facilitating their knowledge, not doing it hard.
And so how, I think you've slightly answered the question there, because you're just using different language, reframing slightly what you do. How are you thinking you're going to get past this sort of bit of a slight barrier you've had? What things are you going to do that will enable you to, move into that space confidently?
Well, the first thing I did after we had that discussion and I had those thoughts was that I looked back really more over my career. So my career in sales and marketing over the last sort of 15 years. I looked back over that and thought of all those situations where I'd been with a client who does this and a client who does that. And there was some specialist healthcare clients, which were fascinating, but nobody would know anything about that, about wound care, and unless you're an expert in wound care. But I was never out of my comfort zone there, because I think I had the support behind you of being part of a company that has put you there. So there's an automatic, oh, you're the right person for this. So you don't question that, do you? If everybody else believes it, then that's fine. You've been given your sort of verification.
Yeah.
It's me alone. I was questioning that, and there was no one pushing me forward, saying, no. Remember those other times where you did this? I was remembering the negatives and not remembering the times when I could help. So first of all, I've gone back and sort of thought, who did I help that was out of my comfort zone or out of my perfect fit?
Brilliant.
There was masses. And they'd always gone well. There was never anything negative about those experiences for me, all from the client's perspective. So that was the first thing that I did. The second thing that I did was try and step into the shoes of the man I had been talking to and think, what's he seeing and hearing in me that makes him think I'm a good fit? And he doesn't even know me. And I thought, oh, golly. And I realised it was because a lot of it is around my questioning style. So similar to your questioning around people's, the lives and the steps and the decisions they're making and how and why those are coming from. I can take that style of decision making in a very similar way into a business. Why are we doing this? Why are the customers thinking like that? Why are we thinking like that? What's our purpose behind this as a business? And some of those things. And that questioning style is sector non-specific. I realised that he had been hearing this from me, talking to him, and talking to, there were some interesting young companies that I'd met on that same day that I'd been talking to, and he'd been hearing all that and thinking, oh, she's asking, really the right questions. And I realised that he had already made this decision that I was potentially a really good supplier for some of his clients.
Yeah.
If he can do that, then why can't I?
Yeah.
I emailed him and said, yes, I'd love to come and give a talk. Yes.
Great.
Yes,
Great.
Because again, then that old bit of me that says, just say yes and see what happens next.
Yeah.
And come out.
Could step up. Yeah. Seems to me like you found a way to back yourself, like you would in a team. If you were on a team and somebody had a job that they were slightly unconfident about, you'd be saying, yeah, go on, you'll be fine, go on, go for it, and then we'll have a chat when you come back. But when you're a solo business owner, you don't have that team, so you actually need to play all those roles for yourself, and you need to back yourself and say, you can, come on, Kim, you can do it. See, look, there's all these evidence that you can do it. Go for it and sort of push yourself, and then perhaps be the one that you come back to and have the cup of tea and talk about how it went. And,
it's
soothe yourself down if it was a bit scary.
It's like cheerleading yourself. We're not necessarily, our UK culture, women, I don't know, but we're not the world's most naturally like, God, I'm good at this. Sounds a bit American like that, but I don't necessarily say, God, I'm good at this.
Yeah.
But sometimes when I've done,
you are. Some of them you are.
Around and go, oh, that was good. We are so much clearer about what we're doing, and I think, I sort of turn around and go, oh, yeah, that was good, wasn't it? And it's like my clients cheerlead for me, but when they're not there, who's cheerleading? Got supportive family, etc., but they're going to cheerlead me regardless.
Yes.
So I can't take the same verification from them as I would. One of the brilliant things about networking and meeting these people that you do meet when you're out and about, self-employed, meeting other startups, other small businesses, is that sense of support you get, where people say, do you know what, Kim, all those conversations we've had when you've asked me things about my business, and they're not even a client of mine, they just say, it's so helpful.
Yeah.
And that's just, half-hour conversations here and there.
Yeah.
So, what you can do when you're working together properly, sky's the limit.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it depends as well on our own ability to take those things that people have said and really believe them and like own them, and not, could be very easy to dismiss it and say, oh, well, it was nothing. But actually for you, your ability to get through the block that you had of fear depended on your ability to really believe some of the things that you'd seen and heard and experienced and own them.
Yeah.
So then you could act on them and send the email.
It is, yeah. And again, I had that lucky I had that background support and feeling of it is always okay to say yes, simply because good things normally happen when you do things. You can only regret really what you haven't, you tend to regret more what you haven't done, not what you have, because of the way doing new things is such a learning journey and such an interesting journey. And just thinking, well, other people are seeing something that I'm not seeing so clearly, positively, and why would you ignore that?
Yeah.
But just a little monkey on your shoulder saying, oh, you might not be very good at that, so you have to flick it off, something like that. Yeah.
So good. I don't have any more questions. That's been really brilliant to discuss those ones with you. Thank you, Kim, for your...
Really interesting, again, because sometimes even talk it through is it's reinforcing positives that I feel, and reinforcing the fact, reminding what you're good at, and it feels very, very positive just even answering questions.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you. It's been very helpful. Thanks for your time.
No problem at all. Thank you very much, Naomi.